This is such an important point for you guys to realize. So all of the benefits that these technology companies are providing in an up market, they're going to become negatives in a down market, at least for prices. It will allow prices, and it's going to force prices to go down faster once the pendulum shifts. How's it going, everyone? This is Nick. I am back here with another Reventure Consulting YouTube cast, and today we have part 3, the final part in Reventure's 3-part series about why the US is currently in a housing bubble that is about to crash. Part 1, which I posted 2 weeks ago, that explored why we're going to see a huge increase in inventory in homes for sale over the next year or 2 years. Part 2 explored why we're going to see a decrease in demand for real estate in that same time frame. Today, part 3, we're going to talk about how prop tech and real estate technology companies are accelerating the current bubble, accelerating the current appreciation in prices, but how those same companies and the technology they provide, they're going to accelerate the downturn and the crash when it happens. Literally no one is talking about how companies like Zillow and Realtor and Rocket Mortgage and all of the hundreds and thousands of real estate startups are really promoting the current housing bubble that's going on in 2 ways. 1, through the technology they provide, which makes buying and selling a home easier, and 2, through the vested interest that they all have in seeing the housing market and the housing frenzy increase. The problem is that that's going to run out at a certain point. Like we discussed in part 1 and 2, the supply of homes is going to increase on the market, guaranteed, over the next year or 2. The demand is going to go down, pretty much guaranteed, over the next year or 2. And when those dynamics get put into place, all of this new real estate technology and prop tech is going to help hasten the crash and make the crash even worse. That's right. A company like Zillow, and actually the tremendous website that they provide and the tremendous data that they provide that I actually use in a lot of these videos, a company like Zillow is actually a destabilizing force on the housing market. Because in a time of frenzy, which we're experiencing a time of frenzy right now, it just creates the environment for more frenzy. Super easy to just go on your Zillow app, look at homes, look at which ones are going up, which ones are going down, what the prices are. Just from your couch, you can get interested in wanting to buy a home, right? That wasn't something that really existed in society 10 to 15 years ago. And it's this effect which is accelerating the increase in home prices. Basically, what a company like Zillow does is it shortens the amount of time that it takes a buyer to find a seller and the home that they want. It shortens the amount of time, not only through like easy access to the app, but there's things like virtual tours, virtual staging. Like you could be in a state like California and buy in Texas and you don't even need to go there. Like you could do the 3D tour of the home. You don't even need to go there. You just call up a local realtor, say, I want this house, and you get it. So Zillow, it shortens the amount of time. But anyway, we're going to get into the technicalities on that in a second. What I really want to start talking about, though, is the smaller side of prop tech. It's all of these new startups. There's so many. There's hundreds and thousands of new prop tech, real estate technology startups that, they want to be the next Zillow. They want to be the next big real estate technology company. And it's these prop tech startups that are really fueling a lot of the craziness, demand for homes, appreciation of homes that we've seen over the last year. And one of the reasons for that is that the venture capital community and the investment community has started pouring billions of dollars into these prop tech startups starting in about 2017. Starting about 2017, the amount of prop tech startups in general and the amount of investment they were receiving went way up. And since it's gone way up, not coincidentally, the housing market's gone way up. And you can see what I'm talking about on this graph, which tracks the amount of venture capital investment and raises for prop tech startups. So let me just walk back a second and explain what this is. So if you have a new company, right? Imagine like Zillow 2.0 or whatever the next Zillow wannabe is going to be. They might form their company and they might get what's called a seed round, where like they raise a couple $100,000 to start the company. Maybe it gets a little bit bigger. Then they'll raise a Series A round or maybe a Series B, 10 million, 20 million, $30 million investments from venture capital firms. What we're seeing on this graph is representing the increase in those investments. So basically from 1999 through the 2000s, right, there was about 800 million, maybe up to $1 billion, 1.5 billion a year invested in these new PropTech real estate startups. And this was a pretty consistent trend through 2015. You could see that like there was just incremental growth in the amount of money and the amount of real estate PropTech startups. But basically, since 2015, really heading into 2016, right? All of a sudden, the amount of investment has just shot up considerably. We went from around 1.5 billion to 2 billion. Now we're doing 9 billion, 8.5 to 9 billion a year in venture capital and investments in these PropTech startup companies. Massive, massive increases that really took hold. You could see, 2019, that was a banner year, right? In 2019, 2018, the value of these investments just went way up. So there's all this institutional capital being invested into the real estate technology space, these PropTech startups that do a variety of different things, right? Some of them are lenders, like, they kind of want to be the next Rocket Mortgage. They want to be lenders. Some of them invest in equity and co-sharing, so they'll co-invest on a family's down payment on a home. Others do timeshares. There's a whole variety of different things that these companies do, but the bottom line, the common denominator, is that all these companies benefit and make more money when the real estate market appreciates. And that's what you need to focus on. These companies have a vested interest in perpetuating the current housing bubble because it makes them more money and it makes the VCs more money who invested in them. So let's get a bit more specific. Let's look at a couple of these PropTech startups specifically so you can see what I'm talking about. So I spend a lot of time making these videos. I love sharing this data with you guys. If you're enjoying it, all I ask is just please hit the like button. When you hit the like button, it shows YouTube that it's a good video and will show it to more people. So just please hit the like button and then also comment on the video. I want to hear your feedback. I make sure to respond to pretty much every comment. I love interacting with you guys. So please comment on the video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please also make sure to subscribe. All right, let's get back to the video. So the first company that we're going to take a look at is called Orchard. Orchard is based in New York. They've raised over $350 million to date. They're one of the fastest growing PropTech companies. And let's take a look at what Orchard does specifically. All right, so now we're on Orchard's website, right? And what does it say here? It says, buy your next home before you sell. Start by getting the most accurate free home valuation in 24 hours. So it's buy your next home before you sell. Interesting. Let's scroll down to kind of see more about what they say here. So it says, unlock your equity, get instant access to your hard-earned home equity. We can help you unlock up to 90% of your home value up front, even before you list. Wow, so it looks like what Orchard does is if you're looking to sell your home, you go to Orchard and you say, I'm going to try to list my home for maybe 700 grand. Orchard will say to you, oh, no need to list right now. We'll actually give you 620,000 in cash right now. We'll handle the listing. We'll just give you the money for your home now. We'll handle the listing. Let's keep scrolling down. It says here, become a cash buyer. Become a cash buyer. Make the best possible offer on your next home without rushing to sell first. If you're buying in a hot market, we can even turn your offer into all cash. So it sounds like what they're saying there is in a market like Austin that's competitive, if you're a cash buyer, you have a better chance of buying the house. I guess if Orchard gives you your money up front for your old home, that's money then that you can use potentially to make a quote unquote cash offer on your new home. So let's just think about this for a second. So normally if you go to sell your house, you have to list it, right? And when you list it, the local market is going to dictate how much you're going to get for it and how fast you can sell it. That's the way an efficient market should work. However, what Orchard is doing is they're coming in up front and they're saying, don't even bother with the listing. We'll just give you 90% of the value up front in cash and go on your merry way. And then go on your merry way to wherever your new home or new neighborhood is going to be or new city, and you can make a cash offer and beat out all those other people. Well, on an individual level, that sounds great, but you have to ask yourself, what is that doing to the housing market all of a sudden? It's shortening that window between the buyer finding the seller and the seller finding the buyer, which sounds good, but it's actually pretty bad. It's very destabilizing for the housing market because it's essentially providing an accelerant. It's pouring gasoline on the existing hot market, right? Think about what Orchard said. In a competitive market, it's better to be a cash buyer. We'll make you a cash buyer. But you're not actually fundamentally a cash buyer. You're someone who likely needs a mortgage, but because this company, Orchard, which raised all this money from VCs, is saying, we'll be your cash. They're almost acting like a bank, even though they're not regulated, right? And they're probably giving you a leverage ratio that's much higher than they should. They're acting like a bank, even though they're not. This type of business model can work if the market keeps appreciating, right? But what happens if the market turns? What happens if all of a sudden Orchard can't sell your home like it thought it could sell your home, or get the price that it thought it could get for your home? All of a sudden, there's a little bit of a problem here. Orchard either has to go back to you and say, you need to help us cover the cost of this. Even though we gave you this cash and you already bought your new home, you need to help us now. Or they need to take the loss. Destabilizing for the market. That's going to end up with more inventory and listings on the backside when the crash starts happening. But there's even more ridiculous things going on with these PropTech startups. This next one is even more egregious. It's a company called Pacaso. And Pacaso was actually only founded 6 months ago. It was founded in October 2020, so it's super new. However, Pacaso is already worth, allegedly, over $1 billion. That's right. Apparently, it's the fastest US company ever to hit unicorn status, to be worth over $1 billion. Wow, they must be doing something pretty new and innovative to be worth that much that quickly, right? Well, I guess we'll see. So here's Pacaso's website. They say the modern way to buy and own a second home. Interesting. I didn't know that there needed to be a modern way to own a second home. I didn't know that the pool of people who wanted to do that was so deep. But let's see here. Find your second home with Pacaso. We make it simple. We create a property LLC for each home, find and vet co-owners, and handle the sales. At closing, the co-owners enjoy 100% ownership of the home. Pacaso does not retain any shares. So this looks to be like, let's see here. We have something here, $426,000 for something in Lake Tahoe for 1/8 ownership. Oh, I see. So Pacaso is basically buying homes, buying maybe luxury vacation style homes or luxury, homes that would be a second home. And then they're selling fractional shares in the ownership of that home to people, almost exactly like a timeshare. So Pacaso's basic business model is a timeshare business model, which, I'm sure you guys have heard about timeshares. They get a lot of negative press because people end up buying into them and then realizing it was a mistake. I actually don't want to share ownership with these other people. I actually don't want to go to this place all the time. I want to sell. Whoops. You're not going to get what you thought for it when you sell. Let's look at some more listings here. Let's look at this home in Orange County. So they're selling here, Balboa Island, Newport Beach. They're selling 1/8 ownership in this home, which looks beautiful, by the way. Looks absolutely beautiful, for $730,000. That's an imputed market value of over $5.6 million. And you get the right to use this home, I guess, for, looks like 44 nights per year. You pay $730,000. Of course, what you see here is that Pacaso bought this home for $4.95 million, but they're selling fractional ownership shares based on a value of 5.6. So Pacaso's marking up the price of the home by about 20%, 15 to 20%. They're marking it up and then selling fractional shares. So this is messed up on multiple levels. First of all, the fact that a company can be 6 months old and have a timeshare as its business model and be then worth $1 billion, that shows you that something is just fundamentally wrong with investment in assets right now. Like, forget the housing market. The fact that Pacaso is worth $1 billion when their investment model is a very old investment model that we know doesn't work very well should tell you everything you need to know about the decisions that people are making right now. But when you explore further into what Pacaso is doing, so they're actually using, again, venture capital money and debt. They're using that money to just go buy up homes, and in this case, luxury homes. And then they're selling shares at a 15 to 20% premium over what they paid for the home, which was likely an overpayment already. I wonder how that's going to turn out when the housing market turns. What are these fractional owners going to do when they realize that the investment that they paid imputed price of 5.6 million for is actually probably worth 4 million or 4.5? They're going to rush to the door and try to sell their fractional shares. And Pacaso's business model is going to explode. And when Pacaso's business model explodes, all the demand that they were providing for the market goes away, and that demand then turns into new liquidity as they're going to go and try to sell these homes quickly. Can you smell that? It smells a lot like 2005, 2006 in terms of what a lot of these companies are doing, in terms of like what the overall environment is like. It smells a lot like 2005, 2006, right before the last crash. So companies like Orchard and Pacaso are providing a lot of liquidity to the real estate market right now and helping to basically pour jet fuel on the existing housing crisis, the inventory shortage, and the price appreciation. They're just pouring jet fuel on it. But there's actually nothing fundamentally sound about the business models that these companies operate in, because they only work if prices appreciate, right? And now let's go back to Zillow for a second. So we talked about how Zillow provides a good service, right? Zillow allows buyers and sellers to find each other more quickly, right? That's a good thing in general, and it's something that accelerates demand and accelerates frenzy in the short term. Because when you match a buyer to a seller more quickly, it makes it even more of a seller's market when it is a seller's market. Let me explain what I'm talking about here. All right, guys, here we have a hypothetical market. We have 9 buyers. You could see here the 9 X's, and then we have 6 sellers, 6 X's. So there's more buyers than sellers. There's 1.5 buyers for every seller. So this is a seller's market, right? And this is like similar to what we're seeing right now. There's more buyers than sellers. There's causing, basically liquidity issues in the market, and there's just simply not enough sellers to meet the demand, and that's how you see low inventory and high prices. But what about in a seller's market with PropTech, with Zillow, with Orchard, with Pacaso? What does that do? Well, it does this. It basically matches buyers to sellers more quickly. So we could take 3 of these buyers and we're going to match them with 3 of these sellers, because all this new technology is basically just making it easier for buyers to find sellers and match. So what we then do is we now end up with 6 buyers and 3 sellers. Oh, but wait a minute, 6 buyers, 3 sellers, that's now 2 buyers per seller. That's even more of a seller's market than it was before, simply because these property technology companies, these real estate technology companies are making it easier for buyers to find sellers. So we just made it even more of a buyer's market by simply accelerating how quickly the market clears. Now, don't get me wrong, this does provide real value to society. It's certainly better than the old school methodology of like, let me just find a broker and they're just going to get me all the listings, and now I can just look and find it myself, right? That's a good thing. Except again, so it accelerates the seller's market, right? It makes it even more of a seller's market because buyers and sellers are finding each other more quickly. However, here's the rub, here are the dirty details. When the market flips, when all of a sudden all the listings from part 1 that we discussed are going to come on the market, the demand goes down like we discussed in part 2. All of a sudden when the market flips and there's more sellers and buyers, these prop tech companies are going to have the exact reverse effect. They're going to make the deceleration of the market and the crash more severe. It's such an important point for you guys to realize. So all of the benefits that these technology companies are providing in an up market, they're going to become negatives in a down market, at least for prices. It will allow prices, and it's going to force prices to go down faster once the pendulum shifts. And to just illustrate the point, let's go back to this hypothetical market. Now in a normal market, in a normal buyer's market, we have more sellers than buyers. 9 sellers, 6 buyers. But then when we introduce PropTech, right, when we introduce Zillow, when we introduce Orchard, we're basically matching up those buyers and sellers more quickly. Okay, now we're left with 6 sellers and 3 buyers, 2 sellers per buyer. We now have even more of a buyer's market. So what's going to happen here is that certain homes are just going to sit on the market. Maybe your home isn't the nicest home. Maybe you didn't do as good a job on the Zillow presentation as you should have. Maybe your photographs weren't nice enough. For whatever reason, if there's something a little wrong with your home or not optimal, it will sit. It's going to sit as a result of this acceleration of buyer and seller matching. And when homes sit, that's going to reduce prices even more, right? Sellers are basically going to start panicking. The ones maybe with the homes that aren't quite as nice or not in the best location or don't have the best presentation, they're going to start panicking because they're going to get screwed over basically by how this technology acceleration is working. And that's going to destabilize the market. It's going to accentuate the crash when it does happen. Now, I want to give a shout out here to Issy Romem. He's a housing and real estate economist based out of the Bay Area. He's absolutely brilliant. He's done a lot of amazing work on real estate economics and home prices. He actually wrote about this phenomenon in a New York Times article in December. I'm going to link to that in the description, where he basically talks about all of this, right? And the mismatch between buyers and sellers and how it's basically being accelerated by PropTech. So make sure to read that article. There's a link to it in the description. So now you can really see how this dynamic is going to play out. We are going to have a surge in listings. This basically because of COVID, people didn't list their homes. Eventually they will. So we're going to have a surge in inventory, as well as a surge in new home building. So a lot of new listings for sale over the next year or two. Just as we're going to have a decline in demand, because a lot of the wealthy renters already bought, right? A lot of the wealthy homeowners already bought their second home, and lending standards are strict. So we're going to see a decline in demand. Layer on the accelerant factor from this PropTech phenomenon, and woo boy, you have the recipe for a housing crash. So what's next? What do you do right now if you want to buy a home or if you want to buy an investment property? A lot of people ask me that, right? And here's what I'll say. There's certain markets across the country that are much safer investments right now than others. There's certain markets where prices are more realistic, more linked to the fundamentals of the market in terms of how much money people make and what rental rates are. There's other markets, on the other hand, where prices are completely disconnected. And in those disconnected markets, I see a lot of potential downside. In my video next week, I'm going to explore which markets you should target and which ones you should avoid if you're intent on buying a home or investment market in this environment. So you're not going to want to miss that video next weekend. Make sure to subscribe so you don't. Please also make sure to like this video and to comment on it. When you like it and comment, that tells YouTube it's a good video, gets me a little more exposure. And I also just really want to hear from you guys. I want to hear what you think about the data. I love interacting with you. I make sure to respond to every comment pretty much in the comments section. So make sure to comment, make sure to like it. And until next time, this is Nick from Reventure Consulting signing off.